evening to a weekly broadcast of Farm Genocide. This program is basically just for South Africans, for the world to see what is actually going on in South Africa. I believe that the news that is being shown at the moment is fake news. So what we do is we actually get people from South Africa to send in news, send in what is actually going on, and from there we will relay it to the rest of the world. So whatever you're hearing from anywhere else, especially some of the bigger news corporations, I believe that most of it is just a cover-up. Okay, so yes. The first thing that happened on Monday, this last Monday come past, they had Black Monday. Black Monday was about farm murders. Black Monday was about the genocide that's happening with these farmers, and it's not it wasn't colour based. It's basically farmers. They call it Black Monday for farmers, in the sense that, you know, farmers with farm help, whoever's on the farm, people are going onto these farms and murdering these farmers. It in no way takes away with what's actually going on in South Africa as well, outside of the farms, you know, with the murders and all of that. We all know that South Africa at the moment is the rape capital of the world. It's one of the most dangerous countries outside of a war zone, and yet the government there play this all down. South Africa at the moment is racially motivated. Because of white coloured skin, you can't get certain jobs, whereas this is what the world believed that Mandela was fighting for, so that, you know, no matter who and what colour you are, you'd be able to get jobs and go into the work market and literally live next to someone, have the same voting rights, basically have the same rights. Now, whites in South Africa, particularly the Boers and the English, of course, they have been sidelined. South Africa is the only country in the world where the minority is ousted. The majority is protected from the minority, and this is in South Africa. So my opening monologue, it's about the flag issue. The South African flag has changed over the years. The old flag had the blue, white and orange with the different countries emblemed in the middle of the flag. Obviously this flag, according to your New South Africa, and I put this in brackets, the commentators, they say that this was an apartheid regime flag, which is actually untrue. The apartheid regime actually hated this flag because the flag represented Britain. It represented countries that they weren't big fans of, and these countries obviously were boycotting South Africa. So I'm just going to, in my opening statement, read to you what's actually going on in Cape Town. Cape Town Cabinet has condemned the displaying of the South African so-called apartheid era flag, and I'm going to put this as so-called because it's not an apartheid era flag, during mass protest by farmers on Monday. First of all, farmers on Monday did not protest with this flag. These images that were shown, as you can see, they're actually from 2012 and before. They were not flown on that day. The Monday, Black Monday was about farm murders. Please, let's not take away from the farm murders that was going on and is going on. And since Monday, farm murders have happened. On the day, murders were happening. So this is quite distressing. Cabinet, of course, has condemned the blocking of public roads. You see, blocking of public roads is more important, you know, to clear the roads than to save a farmer from murder. Displaying of symbols of the past oppression and destruction of national symbols, which are the reflection of our hard-earned democracy. South Africa is not a democracy. South Africa pretends to be a democracy. South Africa is a social state with one government that has changed presidents every so often. The ruling party really is it's a tri-party state, and it's ANC, the Communist Party, as well as Kusatu. They run the country. It's always been like that. So if people try and say that this is a democracy, it is not. You've been fooled. Okay. Communication Minister Momloko Kubaye told a post-cabinet media briefing there was at this stage no plans to ban the apartheid era flag, and the reason why they can't ban it is because it's not an apartheid era flag. We have not gone to the extent of saying we must ban it as part of history. If we did, we would have to look at whether it is in the best interest of nation building, she said. Monday's protests were in response by farming community against the high incidence of killing of farms and farm workers. Minority right groups, Agri-Forum, claim 74 people have been killed in the attacks on the farms so far this year. Now, if anybody has any issues about minorities in South Africa trying to get a voice heard, and they've got issues against it, then the UK, America, Europe, every other country in the world must stop listening to their minorities, because their minorities get the most say in those countries, whereas in South Africa the minorities are sidelined. Okay, so what is this they are discussing in Parliament? Who cares about the farmers? That takes second fiddle to the flag and how offended we are. That's the idea, and that is the consensus in Parliament. And all I have to say about that is, wow. The flag itself has no bearing on racism or hatred. In fact, nationalists hated the flag as it showed the English flag on it. The original Union flag was red with Union Jack on one corner. Our flag and the Canadian flag of the time was the same. Racism. Racism is a made-up word. Racism has no bearing on race. In fact, we're all one race, different colours. The reason why we're different colours and different hairstyles and stuff like that is because of the areas that we were living in at the time. If you go and look at India, people around the equator are darker, people along the sides are whiter. It's exactly the same thing with the rest of the world. Around the equator, people would be darker. Why? Because the pigmentation helps with the sun, as well as you don't need somebody in the north or in the in the north to actually have dark pigmentation, because it's not hot, it is cold. So that is the difference between dark and skin pigmentation, but it's one race. Across the colour board, blood types are the exact same thing. You know, you've got the same blood types. You've got O positive, a B negative, you name it, you've got a AB plus and what have you. It's all the same. You've got those blood types going across all colours. So there is in fact no such word as racism, because you can't have racism against your own race. Now, what happens is that communism brought this word in because they wanted to create dissension. And the idea of it is, if I can accuse you of racism every time you disagree with my point of view, then I've got you. And that's what racism is. It's manipulation, and it's emotional in the manipulation. Yes, I agree. Oppression of any creed is wrong. Of any colour, it's wrong. What Martin Luther King fought for, he fought for civil rights of one man having the same rights as another. But he did say that a man will be judged on the colour of his, on his character, rather than the colour of his skin. Now in South Africa, you're judged on the colour of your skin. If anyone disagrees with that fact that I've just made, let's see if any black person, and I'm sorry guys, this is not a racial statement, this is fact. If any black person around the world would vote for a white man just because of his character rather than his colour. Black, white and Indian have the same blood types running through them. So this is not, and has never been about race. It's always been about greed. Communism take over in South Africa, examples, China. These things have always gone on because China wants a big chunk of Africa. South Africa, up until apartheid was gone, they had the biggest uranium deposits, the biggest coal deposits, the biggest diamond and gold deposits. They also had the biggest platinum deposits, and the world wanted this. Now, obviously, the world has it and all of that wealth is leaving the country, and the rand has fallen at such a level because of corruption. All you have to do nowadays is pay the government a certain amount of money and go and steal the country's wealth. Let's talk about the farm issue, because that's really ultimately what this program will be about. The farm issue. It is of no secret that the government want to take away white-owned farms to give to blacks in so-called ancestral land ownership. This is a lie. Blacks have never owned these lands, and it's been refuted. There is no evidence of whatever of black ownership of lands. Blacks were nomadic in the days of the first settlers. The Khoisan people, if there were anyone that needs to own the land, the Khoisan people have the rightful rule. Owners of this, well, they are the rightful owners if there is to be a rightful owner. So-called giving back land. Shaka Zulu was from Bulawayo, not South Africa, and he had an empire that was destroyed when Dingaan killed him and underhanded the Boers. At the Battle of Blood River, the Boers prayed for God to mercifully allow them to win and save their families. It is not the case of who is right and who is wrong. It is about perspective, and any history on this planet is about perspective. Whoever wins, whoever is the ruling party of the day, whoever the people are, they'll give their perspective of history, and obviously they will put their bits in and their own viewpoints. So you will never hear truth in history, you'll always hear somebody's viewpoint of what they see as truth in history. And that is my thought for the day. That is what I believe, that is what I want to bring across, that in South Africa everything is not as it seems. South Africa is but a country that is overtaken with greed, with corruption, with crime, and the people that are suffering the most at this moment in time per capita are our farmers. That is literally farm genocide.
These are not any normal form of crime anymore, but an outright act of terror, and anyone who still describes this as crime is committing himself to unnecessary bloodshed. We live on a continent where famine is a way of life. Food security should be a matter of national priority and not just lip service.
I've made a call for everyone to stand up and to take hands and to take our hands, and not just the farmers but also the farm workers. Everyone is welcome to say enough is enough, and we just want to stand up in unity and let the eyes be on us so that people can see that we are really enough. We've had enough. We've had enough of lies. We've had enough of shallow promises. We want someone to stand up. Okay, so now we are getting together to do a little prayer and to talk to our farmers and to give them hope that this will end. Eventually this will end, and we won't fall down, and we won't sit until it has stopped. So we are leaving in the convoy at 8, and then we are using the R101 and then following the R102, and then we're taking the Kuberg off ramp on the N1, and then we are taking Helen Suzman till we get Greenpoint Stadium.
Trailers as well, right around here, really just people heeding the call, the farming community really heeding the call with their black T-shirts saying stand up against farm murders, just saying that.
In Cape, thousands of people gathered at Kanonkorp this morning, which is a farm in Klapmuts near Stellenbosch, in protest against farm murders. The city of Cape Town said marchers were given a permit to stage demonstrations, but the number of people gathered has far exceeded what the city planned for. The protesters used Voortrekker Road through to Belleville, Parow, Goodwood, Kensington and the Maitland area, and they've now started to gather at Greenpoint Stadium.
Enough is enough. It means genoeg is genoeg. That's our name. And it's a move by the people. It's spontaneous. It started by nobodies. I'm a nobody. I'm just a cattle boy. I'm a farmer. And the girl that started the spark, the Lita Bason, is just a normal student. And through her initiative, she started this move. And there was no organization. It was just everybody helping. Everybody. So enough and enough is everybody's heart. It's the normal South African. And it's to the heart that we spoke this morning. And this move was a heart because it's a unity ride. We're riding in unity, and that's why we ended here. We didn't go to Parliament because we're not petitioning to people or to leaders or to the government. They know there's something wrong. Everybody knows there's something wrong. But we're coming for every murder, not just farm murders, every single murder in South Africa. And we say God can change our hearts. That's why God will change our hearts. And if 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, ask forgiveness, and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, I will heal their land. So we're standing in unity, and that was a unity ride in order to show everybody that's not what we're riding against, but what we're riding for is for a hope.
Now, we saw tractors, we saw people on motorcycles, we saw people in their bakkies. Are you surprised by the turnout? Because initially we heard about 500 vehicles and 2,000 people. But Daniel, we've seen, I mean, there are people still stuck on the main roads coming in from Bellville, not so?
Yes, there's a lot of people still on their way here. I would say it's like starting a fire, and it's not in our hands. I believe it's a move of God, because 22nd of April, Angus Buchan started a meeting with 1.5 million people just coming together saying it's time. And I believe it's time now. I believe it's a new birth in South Africa. I believe it's enough is enough. But the main thing is enough is we're stopping here. But then we're going forward. So the one guy said on his bakkie, genoeg is genoeg. Nou gaan ons ploeg. We are farmers. Every single person, and I'm not calling only on farmers, every single person, your house is your castle, your little house. You're going to start in your own house, reading the word of God, hearing from God, bending your knees, humbling yourself, and then you're going to stand up, take your 2 hands, and do something positive. We're going to stay positive. I think everybody saw today, it was positive. The people along the roads, I just thank everybody, just calling in people, all colors, anybody that says to me this thing was racial or white or anything, must be surely blind, because everybody was so positive. Just putting hands up and saying, putting their hands together and standing, yes, with a widow, but we're standing for a future. So now we're going to plow and we're going to look forward, and every single person, the person on the ground, we're going to change this country, not from Parliament, not from the top. We're going to change this country from the kitchen floors, from the bottom, from the normal person, because the normal person in this country is already in harmony. We are working together, millions of people, and then we have these spurs of people that been, so I believe it's in the normal person's heart. There is goodness, always.
It is with shock that the FF Plus learned that some of the farmers that participated in the Black Monday protest action were served with a summons. And we are taking up the matter with the Minister and Commissioner of Police, says Mr. Pina Groenewald, leader of the FF Plus. One of the farmers is the 69-year-old Peter Wagner from Modimolle. Mr. Wagner had been summoned to appear in the court in Bella 2nd of November. And he has been charged with organising an illegal protest as well as illegally blocking the road in terms of the Road Traffic Act. Now, just if you look at the picture, the difference between the Farmers' March and the difference between this the Black Marches. Sorry, that is exactly what they are. Okay, I'm trying to get a nice word, but it's the truth. This is the evidence. Okay. According to Dr. Groenewald, the legal action taken against the farmers is shocking and unacceptable, as all the protests across the country were peaceful. Nothing went wrong. No one who took part in the countrywide protest marches blocked the roads with burning tyres or rocks, and no one vandalised property. People of all races participated in this campaign of their own accord, and it was for a legitimate cause, which is the unacceptable high number of farm murders taking place on the present government's watch. With this attitude, the government is waving a red flag in front of all peaceful, loving citizens of South Africa, and the legal action is a slap in the face of the agricultural community in particular. The FF Plus was under the impression that the minister approved of the protest action, seeing as he was aware of it beforehand and he did not warn against it. Clearly, the legal action taken against farmers is a result of political pressure on the minister. The FF Plus wholeheartedly supports the farmers in this matter and will do everything in its power on the political front to put pressure on the government to keep them proceeding with action against the farmers, says Dr. Groenewald. Okay, do we see the pattern here? This government does not want people to know and to see what's really going on in South Africa. Yes, I am very biased. I am biased because of people being murdered and slaughtered. South Africa is suffering through a genocide and we need to support South African farmers. South African farmers block highways and Black Monday protest against murder. Now this is a BBC article which I'm going to read. Major roads in South Africa were brought to a crawl on Monday amid protests against brutal attacks of white farmers. Black Monday protests backed by civil rights group Anti-Forum saw hundreds of slow-moving vehicles. Participants wore black in memory of those killed. Everything is fine with all of this. According to Agri-Forum, the murder of Bokkie Potgieter brings the total number of farmers killed this year to 72 in more than 340 farm attacks, which typically categorized by the extreme brutality. Because these are not just normal crime, this is brutal crime of the rape and the torture that these people are going through. A farmer has 4.5 times more chance of being murdered in South Africa than the average South African. Agri-Forum spokesman Ian Cameron told the crowd of hundreds gathering at the farms at the Afrikaners Voortrek Monument in Pretoria, according to the Afrikaans news agency. That means a farmer is 3 times more likely to be murdered in South Africa than a police officer in this country. So farmers have by far the most dangerous job of all people in this country at the moment. We cannot allow this to continue. This cannot be continued. If anyone stands by and lets this happen, they're as guilty as the people killing these farmers. This protest came just days after 2 white farmers were sentenced to more than 10 years. You see, this is what BBC does. Yes, 2 white farmers were sentenced to prison for putting somebody in a coffin. And it's wrong. But that wasn't murder. These people are still alive. They were sentenced to 10 years. The people that are murdering the farmers are getting away with their murder. Do you see the double standards here in South Africa?
AfriForum is a boeremag. It's a group of Afrikaners who still wish for apartheid. They will never see it. Afrikaner boys, the poppers will dance. The EFF is coming for you, boys. Afrikaner boys, the ANC has made you to think this thing is still Orange Free State. This thing is not Orange Free State. This is Free State. When we take over power, Afrikaner males, you will know your place. Just pray. Pray to ancestors. Pray to Malwan. Pray to Verwoerd. Pray and ask them for EFF not to come into power. Because we come into power, Afrikaner male, this side, this is where you belong. This is how you're going to behave. They must know. These Afrikaner males, they must know we are not scared of them. Ideologically, politically, and otherwise. We can take each other toe to toe. We are not scared of Afrikaners. This is not your land. You must know your place. You are visitors here. And the long stay of visitors depends on their conduct. If you continue to misbehave, feeding our people to lions, putting our people who are still alive in the coffins, then you are applying for something else. Be warned. We are not scared of anything. That includes the reclaiming of this land. That's why they opened a case in Free State and Newcastle. Because that's why these Afrikaners still think they are in charge. In these small dorpies, they think...
In South Africa, I'm restricted to where I'm allowed to work. In South Africa, it's a restriction because of the colour of my skin. South Africa is not a country that is not without racism. It's just reversed. If the world can sit by and agree with racism from a black to a white while disagreeing with racism from white to black, that is wrong. That is evil. That is hypocrisy, and that is a double standard. And I believe, and I'm praying that the world wakes up and starts supporting that this is wrong. And yes, I go quiet, and I believe that we need to start looking at what's happening. We need to start paying attention to what's going on in different countries. You know, we've got the so-called liberal out there who thinks that they're doing a good job, and in essence they destroy everything. They are destroying everything, and they believe that they're doing good. I'm sorry, if you are allowing any form of racism, if you're allowing any form of oppression, if you're allowing anything like that because the person is white, you are no better than the person committing the crime. Okay? We are not yet to be embarrassed. I'm not yet to be ashamed of what the colour of my skin is. The same way I expect people to be not ashamed of their colour of skin. We're one planet, but we are one race. Different colours. There is one race. You can't call each other racist. We are one blood type, many of us. There are only a small amount of blood types on the planet, and black, white, we all share the same thing. Underneath the skin, we are exactly the same. Everything is the same. So just take a moment to think about that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in this Sunday. Next Sunday I will be elaborating. I'll be bringing you more news. This program, I'm hoping, gets traction, and I believe that the world should be looking at these programs. If you want to subscribe, please press the subscribe button on the left, and if you want to subscribe, press the button on the left, and please subscribe. Okay, and please, for those of you, share this news. Okay, I need your support. I need this news to go out, because this will be the only thing that I believe that will actually push out to the world what is going on in South Africa. These things that I'm talking to you about are coming straight from people. I will be dealing with people. Okay, I've got to take what they say, and then I've got to try and translate it into English. That will take me a while, but once I've translated it into English, at least then from there we'll be able to bring on the news. I've already got a lot of news that I will be sharing with you next week from people that are giving me the stories, but there's not enough time on this show. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and I just want to advertise Balza Enterprises. If you're listening in from South Africa, Balza Enterprises, basically physical address that's in Bredel Kempton Park. Okay, so Balza Enterprises, look for it on the system. I'm not too sure exactly what this is, but I was given this, I do apologize. And what is it? Then of course boer hier, want a boer, maak 'n plan, met 'n plan as well. Have a look at that. I'll show you, you know, I've got the two things up here, and yeah, just support them, give them a call, find out what they're about, and yes, thank you so much. And please tune in next week. Oh, and if you want to advertise on this show, feel free to do so. Okay? But what I ask for you to advertise for me is to pay for this video and these videos to go to reaching audiences. That's what my costs are. You don't have to worry about giving me any pennies or any money. I'm not asking for your money, but for those that want to advertise, those that want advertisements on here, I want you to do me a favor, and that is pay for the advertising of this video, and let's get this news out as much as possible. Thank you so much, and hopefully you enjoy this week. Please just pray, make sure that you're safe, be aware. If you're in South Africa, be aware, keep your eyes around you. When you're walking in any time, day or night, always be aware, okay? Because no one else is looking after you except God himself. Thank you so much for joining me.